Hi, Jim Setzer with Images by Design, and I'm here to share my reasons why I placed my pre-order for the Nikon Z7 camera body just this morning. This morning, Nikon released a full set of specifications and a pre-release plan for their new full-frame mirrorless camera systems, the Z7 and soon Z6 camera bodies. Now, I'm not a YouTube baller with 1 million subscribers, and I can't toss thousands of dollars on a camera body hoping for 1 million hits to make this back. So when I make an investment in a camera, it's got to provide solutions to some of my photography challenges, and it's got to make good business sense. DP Reviews and others have already got their hands on this weeks ago, and they've already started to produce a number of videos on their experiences hands-on with this thing. They're going to provide you a full set of features and specifications. I'm here to tell you a little bit about my photography and why this camera promises to provide a great addition to my tool bag. Let's start with a look around this body and ergonomics. Back in 1988, when the F4 came out, it was styled by Giorgetto Giugiaro, and the Italian car designer. The ergonomics were really radical, but it is the blueprint for all Nikon camera ergonomics since then. If you take a look at a modern Nikon DLSR, a lot of the buttons are all in the same place. Yeah, styling really hasn't changed all that much. More importantly, the ergonomics, the buttons are all in the same place. I can pick up just about any Nikon camera these days, and I can know how to shoot it right off the bat without having to fumble around looking for what button is where. All the important buttons are where I expect them to be. In this new lineup, these mirrorless bodies, much smaller, there are some significant exceptions to the standard Nikon ergonomic design. Starting with right over here on the front side, because the mirror box is gone and the camera is much smaller, we've lost some of these important buttons here up front that I usually control with these fingers. Down here on the bottom front, the autofocus manual focus selector switch and button that I use in conjunction with these jog dials to set the autofocus mode and autofocus settings. That is missing conspicuously in the new camera body. I really wish they would have at least just left an autofocus button here that I can use to at least change those settings. I can also, of course, use the autofocus manual focus switch that's on every lens. However, that is not always in the same spot, and so I have to turn and look on the camera. If I try to do that with a modern like G lens, a lot of times I'll accidentally turn off vibration control instead, and then I've ruined the shot. So I'm really going to miss that. I have to see exactly how difficult it is to change autofocus modes in the new body. Another button right up here that I use all the time is the bracket button. I shoot a lot of home and garden style shots for magazines and real estate, and I find myself often in a situation where I've got bright light coming through the window, darkly lit by comparison room. I need to shoot it with natural light, so I need a bracket, an exposure bracket to make all that happen in post. Same with gardens. You're going to have a bright sunlight coming in over here with that comes along with shadows from structures and foliage and things, and so I need to be able to quickly set up a bracket, shoot it, and then quickly turn that bracket mode back off again. If I got to go fumbling around in a menu, I'm going to forget to turn it off, and then I'm going to ruin my next round of shots until I realize, oh, duh, you're still in the middle of taking a set of brackets, dummy. So I'm going to miss that quite a lot. The next thing I notice is that these the function buttons F1 and F2 that are over here next to the grip on most Nikon cameras have been moved closer in along the edge of the bezel, along the flange, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a problem for me or not. When I kind of twiddle this with my fingertips, I can reach it. More of a muscle memory thing for me, but if you've got smaller hands, they may be difficult to reach. If you spin around the back of the camera, take a look. This row of buttons over on the left-hand side of the back display have all been displaced. They've either gone away, like the quality button, that's okay by me. I shoot mostly in RAW, and so having that dedicated quality button's no big deal for me. They moved the ISO button way up here behind the shutter release, right next to the exposure compensation button. That's going to take a little bit of getting used to holding that down and using both these dials to turn on and off auto ISO, as well as dial up and down max ISO. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me. The rest of the buttons have just been moved down into this quadrant. The buttons seem big, beefy, easy to use, easy to find in the dark. So I'm excited about the new layout. It's got the thumbstick like the D500 and the D850 have. That's going to be useful. I really like the new modern LCD that they've put on the top display here. They've gotten rid of this segment LCD green backlit thing that looked like a watch from the 80s, and they've replaced it with a modern matrix LCD, which is programmable, meaning that the display can say different things depending on the context, the mode, the whatever it is you're adjusting. We'll have to see how programmable that ends up being, but at the very least, it looks an awful lot nicer. And overall, we have a much more modern look while still being unmistakably Nikon. I'm really excited about the new mount. When I first heard Nikon was working on a full frame mirrorless camera body, the first thing I thought was, man, what they have to do is design a whole new mount system for this thing. First, to overcome some of the shortcomings of the F mount, which has been around since 1959. It served the film days very well, and it served the digital world okay, but it has a couple of shortcomings. It doesn't allow for an aperture wider than f1.2, and it's not very adaptable these days. A lot of the reason people go to Sony is because you can adapt different lenses to that camera body, and you know, Nikon technologies just doesn't work that way. The new Z mount allows for much faster apertures, f.95, according to some new lenses they're coming out with next year, so much faster glass. It also, because the flange diameter is larger, it'll allow it to be adaptable, so you could pretty much build an adapter that allow you to use any kind of lens on the planet with this new body, much like a lot of Sony shooters held onto their Canon glass and adapted to use for this body to really be able to adopt that ecosystem. And this new design is very flexible. Two, I said they had to come out of the gate with an adapter for f-mount lenses that do not suffer from a lot of the problems that other adapted technologies bring to the table. They tend to not focus very quickly, and that has a lot to do with the language translation. And now Nikon to Nikon, there shouldn't be any language lag and other things. So they've surely done that. They've created a mount that addresses all of the shortcomings of their original one, and they're coming out of the gate with that adapter I had in mind to adapt to all of your existing glass, and so you have protected your investment. Way to go, Nikon. Next, let's talk a little bit about video capabilities. As a modern professional photographer, it's going to be very difficult to maintain your business just shooting stills, portraiture, whatever. You've got to diversify, you've got to take on new challenges, and everything's moving toward video. You have got to be able to be a video shooter as much as you shoot stills. This YouTube channel right now is simply a marketing cost. If I want to turn it into a profit center, like I hope to do, I need to really up the game, my production quality. I've got to be able to shoot proper 4K ultra high definition consistently. I have got to up my quality of my sound. Today I don't have a sound set up, so forgive the poor audio today. This is a quick video, trying to get it out the door while this is still hot. Anyway, back to video. I shoot different video clips from different sources, so I might be flying a drone to get stills or aerial imagery. I'll combine that in post with stills and video I took with a handheld camera. And in native formats, you're going to be able to tell. You're going to have different color spaces, and when you stitch them together, it's going to be a nightmare to try to get those to mash up so that it's not obvious that you're shooting with different cameras. The ability to shoot in a logarithmic mode, Nikon calls theirs N-log. It's like B-log, S-log, all these other different logs. This logarithmic mode gives you about 12 full stops of dynamic range in video, especially in 4K, that you can then adjust using lookup tables or LUTs. And that will allow me to take different video clips from different sources, be able to apply the appropriate kind of LUTs to normalize those out, and then color grade them to style. So I should be able to get a much better, crisper, more professional look in the end. I would imagine, because it doesn't have a flip out screen, these new mirrorless cameras will be partnered well with external monitors / recording devices like the Atomos. I'm going to guess the Ninja 5 might be the best fit, size-wise and whatever, to plug this thing in. And that'll allow you to get the most video quality. 10-bit 4K video output out of that HDMI port is going to give you some spectacular imagery, so I'm looking forward to that. I also saw a clip this morning that showed a vast improvement in the proper video autofocus. And this is a place where Nikon's always lagged in the past. The D850 did a little bit better job, but still wasn't on par with some others. But the clips I saw this morning show some promise that the autofocus system in here is going to be ideal for tracking video and keeping focus on the subject and not hunting all the time, which just ruins the shot. It's got focus peaking, zebra stripes, and all the things that you expect out of a proper video camera as well. So looking forward to testing out all those features. Not sure they're all going to be state-of-the-art or even best in class, but together, at least from the specs and the sample video clips I've seen so far, I'm duly impressed. Here are my final thoughts. So first, this camera will not be replacing any camera in my bag. First, it only has one slot. That's a no-brainer. You can't walk around as a pro with any kind of camera as your primary body with only one slot in it. So it'll be reserved for doing those specialty things we talked about. It's being announced with just 3 lenses, and I'm not buying any of them. I'm going to buy my pre-order includes the body and the adapter only. I'm going to shoot with all of my F-mount lenses. And I'll just see how time will tell what those native S-series lenses are going to be like, and if their quality is better or performance is better than the adapted F-mount lenses, then perhaps in the future I'll consider those. I don't expect this camera to be perfect right off the bat. It took years for Sony to fix all the major flaws in their full frame mirrorless line with overheating and battery life and those sorts of things. So I expect those sorts of growing pains along the way. I'm excited for this sector of the market. Cut. I'm excited for this market sector, even in the midst of the overall camera industry decline, because there's a lot of competition growing here. And while Sony has had their lineup out for a couple of years, and they've been able to draw away quite a number of DLSR users to that new ecosystem, now we'll get real competition from Canon soon and this new Nikon offering. And so that's going to make things very exciting. Sony is going to have to come down on the price of those G Master lenses. They're brilliant lenses, they're gorgeous, but they're really overpriced for what you're getting. When Canon comes up with their line, then people will be able to do the same thing. They'll be able to keep their native glass, which is brilliant, and shoot those bodies. So that's awesome for all those Canon shooters that haven't shipped to Sony so far. And us Nikon folks who've kind of felt like we're playing third fiddle for the last couple of years for lack of innovation, save breakthrough cameras like the D500 and the D850. This is really going to bring Nikonites, if you want to call us that, I think back on par with technology-wise with what's going on in the industry. So I see a win for every consumer out there through this strong competition. Why would I get the Z7 versus the Z6? The Z6 is quite a lot less expensive, and that's because of the smaller sensor size. It's a 24 megapixel sensor versus the 45.7 megapixel sensor in the Z7. the Z6 also has a much higher frame rate, so 12 frames per second versus 9 frames per second. I don't need 12. I honestly don't need 9. I'm going to be pretty excited on the rare occasions where I'm shooting in burst mode, and 9 frames per second I'm going to be pretty happy with that compared to what I have now. So I think there you go. That's my take on a nutshell. That's my analysis. That's my thought process based on my business, my photography style. If you found this video interesting and informative, please like down below and subscribe, because when this thing eventually does come in the door, I'm going to do a series of videos on how I liked it, how it worked out for me, and share my journey along the way with you. For Images by Design, I'm Jim Setzer. Have a fantastic day.